Good evening, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your third and final video blog of the night for Thursday, May 14th, 2015, around 7:40 in the evening, Berwick, Massachusetts. Sun's going down. High was in the 60s today. Some news to report. Sad news to report in UFC. Fighter Corey Hill passed away at the age of 36 due to a bout of pneumonia. Prayers to his family. It's happening National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. And the New York Rangers are 2-1 favorites to win the Stanley Cup. And that's about it on the news. My third and final video blog subject of the night is about the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes' time in the WWE from the summer of 1989 through January 1991. Dusty had about like an 18-month run in the world of sports entertainment, the WWE. Dusty Rhodes was a long-time NWA guy. He was a promoter for Jim Crockett Promotions, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, which evolved into the main NWA territory in the 1980s. And also the beginnings of WCW. But like Dusty, got fired from the NWA when they started to turn into WCW. He was fired as booker at first, and then he was fired as a wrestler because he refused to turn heel. And then Dusty went back to Florida to form professional wrestling from Florida, and they actually used the old sportatorium that was used for championship wrestling from Florida. They actually had Gordon Soley there and a few of the longtime championship wrestling from Florida wrestlers like Mike Graham and Dick Slater and Dick Murdoch and Sir Oliver Humperdinck and Terry Funk and a few others, but that did not launch into big time. And in spring of 1989, Dusty Rhodes signed with the WWE, and they had vignettes of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, coming to the WWE. He was a plumber. He was a pizza guy. He was like a car wash attendant. So many skits and stuff. And they say, aren't you? They were turning Dusty Rhodes into a common man gimmick, which, back in the 80s, every wrestler who entered the WWE needed to have a gimmick of some kind. Many of them were cartoonish and stuff. And after a few months, Dusty Rhodes debuted on television called The American Dream. Do, 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 do. He's just a common man, working hard with his hands. He's just a common man, for the man. He's our American Dream. Dusty began a feud with the Big Boss Man on television. He stole the Big Boss Man's nightstick and cuffs on an edition of WWE Superstars. And then at SummerSlam 1989 in East Rutherford, New Jersey, Dusty Rhodes wrestled the Honky Tonk Man, and the match was awful. Jimmy Hart tried to interfere and try to hit Dusty Rhodes with a guitar, but he hit the Honky Tonk Man accidentally, and Dusty Rhodes wins 1-2-3. After a few months, Dusty Rhodes was wearing polka dots for his wrestling trunks, and he was wearing polka dot t-shirts and stuff. A lot of people said that was kind of very insulting for the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Vince McMahon was trying to bury him because of them being rivals for many years, but Dusty Rhodes says it was an insult, it was a rib, and he was having some fun with it. Dusty Rhodes continues to feud with Big Boss Man in house shows in the WWE all around the United States in late 1989 and stuff. And then they were showing an older African American woman wearing Dusty Rhodes' polka dots and stuff, and they were following her around and stuff, and she was a big Dusty Rhodes fan, and they showed her a lot. And then eventually that older lady became Dusty Rhodes' manager, and it was Sapphire, who was actually Juanita Wright. She's famous for driving the wrestlers to and from like the Chase in St. Louis, Missouri, which was like the big NWA territory in the 1980s and stuff. And she became Dusty Rhodes' manager. Sapphire, she did the same thing as Dusty Rhodes, dance and stuff. Dusty Rhodes and the Big Boss Man never had a blow-off feud on television. And at Royal Rumble 1990 on the Brother Love show, they had a special Brother Love show on the Royal Rumble. They had sensational Queen Sherry and Sapphire get interviewed, and then Sapphire and Queen Sherry have a fight, and then Macho Man and Dusty Rhodes fight as well. And then at the Royal Rumble match, Dusty Rhodes eliminates Macho King Randy Savage and stuff, and it starts a long-running feud, which dominates some house show circuits throughout 1990. At WrestleMania 6, they had a mixed tag team match between the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and Sapphire against Macho King Randy Savage and sensational Queen Sherry, but like the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire had a special guest in their corner. It was the First Lady of Wrestling, Miss Elizabeth, and this was probably Dusty Rhodes' greatest match during his tenure in the WWE. Even though it was a mixed tag, it was probably decent and stuff. Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire win with the help from Miss Elizabeth, and they continue on their feud, Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire against Macho King Randy Savage and sensational Queen Sherry for several months. But around the summer of 1990, Sapphire was getting gifts. She was getting like a fur coat and some extraordinary jewelry and stuff. And then there was speculation who's been giving her this gift. And at SummerSlam 90, there was 2 matches booked. One sensational Queen Sherry against Sapphire, and then the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, against Macho King Randy Savage. When Sapphire was supposed to wrestle sensational Queen Sherry at SummerSlam 1990, Sapphire did not show up, and then sensational Queen Sherry won by forfeit. And then when it was the Macho King Randy Savage match against Dusty Rhodes, the $1 Million Man comes up. He was not wrestling on SummerSlam 90, and he said he bought Sapphire. He said to the American Dream, who's been giving Sapphire all these gifts? It was me. Everybody has a price for the $1 Million Man. Dusty Rhodes was distracted, and Macho Man beat him very easily. And then Dusty Rhodes was running to try to save Sapphire, but she was bought by the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And then the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and Dusty Rhodes go into a feud, and eventually Sapphire's kind of phased out because she had enough going on the road, and she was well over in her 50s and stuff. And Dusty Rhodes gets beaten a lot by the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, at house shows, and also eventually they incorporated Dusty Rhodes into the storyline. They started on a Saturday night's main event when the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, was buying the front row, but there was one person who didn't accept the offer. It was Dustin Rhodes, Dusty's son and stuff, and then they attacked Dustin and stuff, and they still have a match on Superstars. Dustin Rhodes against the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Dustin lasted 10 minutes against the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and it was a draw. And at Survivor Series 1990, it was the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and his $1 Million team of the Greg the Hammer Valentine and the Honky Tonk Man. The surprise was The Undertaker. They faced off against the Dream Team, which was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, the Hart Foundation, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Bret the Hitman Hart, and Coco Beware. There was no, Dusty got eliminated by The Undertaker and stuff, so there was not interaction by the $1 Million Man or Dusty. And this is around this time that Dusty gave notice that he was leaving the WWE to go back to WCW as a booker, and then Vince McMahon started to job Dusty out like crazy. He was jobbing to Virgil, of all people, in 30 seconds at house shows. he actually did a job to Sergeant Slaughter at an MSSG house show and stuff. At Royal Rumble 1991, it was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and his son Dustin against Virgil and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, beat Dusty Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes by schoolboying him with like the trunks, and then beat him 1, 2, 3 afterwards. Dusty and Dustin left the WWE, wasn't heard from again in the WWE for over 15 years. My thoughts of Dusty Rhodes joining the WWE from 1989 through 1991. It was decent and stuff. He wasn't going to be a main event star and stuff. And that, like, the polka dot gimmicks and common man gimmick was like, I think it was, good for him, good for Dusty. He made a lot of money on doing the polka dots and the common man gimmick. He probably made more money through those 18 months than he was booking the NWA and winning the NWA World Championship. And it's too bad that Dusty didn't get like maybe a big push to like the WWE Championship or the Intercontinental Championship, but they were held by faces and stuff, so it was not going to happen. But like Dusty Rhodes was pretty good as like a WWE mid-card fan favorite and stuff, and the feuds he had with Macho King Randy Savage and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase were decent, but they weren't legendary and stuff. And I think Dusty's time in the WWE around, like, it was like okay in my book, and I don't buy that Vince McMahon was trying to bury the American Dream Dusty Rhodes during this time. Dusty Rhodes said several years later he was having some fun with this gimmick and stuff, and he wanted to relax after so many years being a booker for Jim Crockett Promotions and stuff. So I give like the American Dream Dusty Rhodes time in the WWE maybe a B+ and stuff. That common man gimmick and the polka dots were fun, in my opinion. I don't think it was embarrassing. I think it was just part of the WWE at the time. Everybody needed some type of gimmick because it was still in the Federation years where the cartoony gimmicks were good in style. And that's about it on him. That's about it on these video blogs of the night. Tomorrow, 3 more video blogs. One will be about top 10 players in Indiana Pacers history. Second video blog will be about the cable TV network, TV Land. And the third and final video blog of the night about the 22-year drought of no NHL Canadian-based team winning the Stanley Cup. And I'll tell you why it could be another 22 years before a team from Canada wins a Stanley Cup. And I'll be back when the day is new and I have more ideas for you, and we'll have things to talk about. I will too. That's from Mr. Rogers. We'll be back. Well, have good night, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And in the words of Bruce Cronin, want to put a wager on that, Richie? Good night.